Software is revolutionizing the world around us, from how we work to how we play to how we live each day. Code is reshaping our reality. But who creates the code, and how can we put the phenomenal power of SaaS, software as a service, into everyone's hands? This is Democratizing SaaS. Conversations with the brilliant minds disrupting business, technology, and society itself through the unstoppable force of democratized software. Here's Feyzi Fatehi.
Hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with someone really special, someone truly at the forefront of the intersection of AI and software. Arun Batchu. As Vice President and Analyst in Gartner Software Engineering Practice, Arun Batchu is one of the world's thought leaders at the intersection of AI and software engineering. With 3 decades of experience spanning artificial intelligence, software engineering leadership, and business technology innovation, he provides critical insights to global software leaders on adopting AI, optimizing engineering best practices, and evolving leadership skills. Previously, Arun established R&D centers at companies including Best Buy and United Health Group to incubate impactful business innovations. He has taught graduate-level software architecture and holds computer science and software engineering degrees, along with a machine learning nano degree. Having built his first neural network and agent as a student, Arun has long explored the intersection of AI and software, including today's foundation models. He brings an interdisciplinary, multi-skilled, cross-domain perspective spanning innovation, education, and responsible AI adoption. Arun, welcome to this podcast. It's such an honor to have you here. What do you have in mind in terms of starting this conversation?
First of all, Feyzi, let me express my gratitude. You are one of my mentors, and I have a tribe of mentors. And so it's just such an honor and privilege to be here. And I go back to the time when we first met. Corinth was voted one of the cool vendors back in 2014.
Yeah, by the Gartner Group, and we were honored. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when we chatted, it was all about, I was covering open source software. And you gave me this incredible story about MyFOS and other innovations, right? Which went to, with your platform, it went live. And at that time, I was wondering about all these open source code maintainers and worrying about their livelihood, because they maintain very critical software, but yet would never get paid. And they were brilliant. And so you and I
Yes.
talked about, what if we could actually come up with an idea and magically their software becomes software as a service.
Yes.
And that thread has been continuing. And today I want to talk really about how AI is amplifying that idea, right? So your book, which says Democratization of SaaS, has been so inspirational. And you talked about more than $1 trillion of new value getting unleashed. And I think it's totally true. So that's one of the things I want to talk about today.
Wonderful. And thank you for your kind words, Arun. You've been a source of inspiration and thought leadership to me. Really appreciate it. So this is a very special episode of this podcast. Cannot wait to hear your thoughts. Why don't we start with the whole new shift in the software engineering practice? I mean, AI has enabled people to rapidly come up with a product and enabling and empowering individuals. Any thoughts in that very general, generic question at the high level, and then we can dive into more specifics if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. This is how AI augments software engineering, because I've been a developer and I've been a leader of developers, has always been on my mind. So because we, as developers, we do a whole bunch of things which we would rather not do. And I began to see that when I was at United Health Group. And then I had this excellent opportunity to join Gartner, and I just dove in, right? So one of the things I wanted to really investigate and research is how far can AI go? And it has been going so far. So I've been researching AI, augmented software engineering, for about 5.5 years. The whole time I've been there, Gartner. And it's been an amazing progress. Every time you feel that it's going to get actually stuck somewhere, there's an advancements going on. So I led the Magic Quadrant for AI code assistance last year. It was the first inaugural one, very popular, with my excellent colleagues. So what I think, from what I see, right, is that AI isn't just assisting developers; it's unleashing entrepreneurs. And I feel that it's going to be very important to really latch on to powerful ideas. And the way I think about it is that a more powerful idea leads to a more powerful product in these days. In fact, when we observe AI native companies, so these companies are producing AI tools and platforms for others to use. And what we notice is very interesting. We always knew that teams are getting smaller. So what these companies do is that they have very, how should we call it, like talent dense, right? So these people who are in the team are very versatile. Okay, I will call it as multipotentialite, but hopefully we'll be able to explain that. And then one thing they do uniquely is they will use up to 10 or more AI tools to automate everything they can. In fact, there's this latest Y Combinator assessment or a talk that came in recently, as like a couple of days ago. And they said for these companies, 95%, almost all code is actually AI generated. But think about it, right? So the cycles are getting faster, and we are thinking about product life cycles that are just software development life cycles. And that's what is really exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. That how the rate of innovation has picked up, and AI has a big role in it. What are your thoughts on this sabbatical to startup movement? What is driving this? People taking a few weeks off, and during that time building a new product, and then how would they distribute it, disseminate it, deliver it to the intended target audience?
Yeah. So two parts there. What was interesting is that this is a couple instances. My wife has got a bookstore called the Thinking Spot, and it's a STEM-based bookstore. So it attracts people who are really interested in the science and technology, engineering and math. And there was this one young person just browsing some of the shelves, and I struck up a conversation, and beautiful conversations there, right? So it's amazing. At one point, I'm talking to the world's top leaders, and here I'm talking to people on the ground. And as I struck the conversation, he said, "Oh, I'm a software engineer." I'm like, well, I lit up because I'm a software engineer at the core. And I said, "What do you work? Where do you do?" Like, "Well, I'm on a sabbatical at this moment." Like, "Oh, good for you," right? And he said, and then we continued, and he said, "Well, I developed an application." Okay, so he showed me that application, and I said, "Okay, oh, how long did it take? Did you have a co-founder? What's going on?" It's like, "No, it's just me." It's like, "When did you start working on it?" 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and I'm stunned. Okay, so he's saying, "Okay," I'm like, "Give me the application. I would love to be your beta, customer." So he says, "Okay." He sends me the email and kind of looking at it. It's very professional. And it's good. It's a very, how should we, compact idea, but I could see that it could be utilitarian. And I said, "Well, how did you just do that? Did you have this code before?" Like, "Nope, I wrote it from scratch." I'm like, "Okay, very curious now." So he then talked about a AI code assistant tool that we are tracking at Gartner, and it's very popular, named Cursor, right? So it was really interesting. And we have several other tools too we cover, which is similar to Cursor, but it was stunning, and it was a validation of this part. But here's what happened. And this is why I pulled up the book you gave me, right? Democratizing SaaS,
Yeah, I
because
have a copy
going
here.
further. Yes, and then thank you for signing it. It's one of those things I really keep it on my shelf. But here's the thing, Feyzi. the reason I looked at it, because he said, okay, so what are you going to do next? Just like, well, you know, distributing it, maximizing it value, pricing it, monitoring it. And he said, well, that's the big deal. I don't want to do. So maybe I will do it later. And that's what struck me. What if, what if there was some magical way where this engineer can package this thing up, put it into something, and all the distribution and monitoring and monetization, etc., would magically happen. And that's when I remembered our
Yes,
conversation.
yes. Yeah, that's really that's what's driving us. And as of recent, in our strategic partnership with AWS, they have realized that, as Claire Gribben, one of the global leaders, mentioned in a previous episode of this podcast, Claire said, cloud is necessary but not sufficient as it comes to SaaS. You need SaaS ops. And that's the reason we created SaaS ops, to liberate great entrepreneurs like your friend that you ran into at your wife's bookstore. So they focus on the area of their genius rather than on metering, monitoring, monetizing, subscription management, delivery mechanisms. And actually, Claire and others at AWS have likened SaaS ops to being the Netflix for the software industry. So, as genius movie producers, directors, actors create a beautiful movie that could win an Academy Award, they don't worry about distribution like in the old times distribution was a bottleneck. And now they put all their focus on developing what their genius is focusing on, and then drop it into Netflix, and boom, it's available. And we hope that SaaS Ops, as an automated a SaaS enablement platform, plays that role, so that the AI entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs can focus on the area of the domain expertise, area of the genius innovation, rather than on the mundane task. Thank you for highlighting that. But the story is amazing. And you're talking about multi potentialites, and people who are multi skilled, multidisciplined. They can think. There is a book I read a few years ago called The Range. People who have the range, as opposed to very focused, which we always need very focused people, especially if we, God forbid, need brain surgery. We want someone who totally focuses on that. But the world of innovation requires Daniel Pink's book, A Whole New Mind, talking about you rather hire MFAs, Master of Fine Arts, than MBAs, Master of Business Administration, because the mind is open and the range of possibilities. You don't limit yourself with the available technologies, and the AI has opened up. It's like the team of one, with the help of all the AI tools around it. Sorry for jumping in.
Oh, this
This
is
is
great.
your, we are
Yeah.
here to learn from you, but thank you for highlighting it, to separating the development of a genius software from the delivery mechanism, and not mix. A lot of people think, oh, AI, yeah, but the delivery mechanism would benefit maximally from agents, from AI, but they're two separate things. Don't confuse the movie with Netflix aspects. So back to you.
Yeah, this is great. In fact, I'm so glad. I discovered the word multi-potentialite a little bit later. In fact, it was just a couple years ago. But you bring up my favorite two authors, right? Daniel Pink, The Whole New Mind, and all the books he has written is amazing. Right? We always knew that the whole mind is going to be important, but the challenge was that the technology had not evolved to unleash that creativity in production mode. But now it's there. The other thing you talked about was David Epstein's book called Range, right?
Yes.
He talks about Federer there versus other folks. And Roger Federer, didn't pick up tennis for a long time, and he's probably one of the best player ever. And the thing with Roger Federer is that he played so many other sports and other things that he would, on the court, he would be playing a mind game That's why when he was even getting over the pine, he still ruled the court because he was always thinking of other things and borrowing from the other experiences he brought in. That's exactly what is applicable today, because the problems today are becoming very wicked, meaning wicked means we've never seen them before.
Mhm, mhm.
Think about everything that's going on. So you need people like who have range to do that, and that's the extension of multi-potentialites. So I feel this is what it is, right? I think multi-potentialites don't fit into boxes. You build new ones, right? And that's the key. And then the other thing is going to be that we have to accept that disruption will be the new normal. Okay.
Yes,
The
yes.
multi-potentialites are going to be the new disruptors. Okay. And that's the key. And what are multi-potentialites? I mean, they, like you said, they have interest in liberal arts, they are interested in science, they're interested in technology. And what they're doing is this class of people, what they're doing is they are innately curious to a different level. And what they do is they learn a certain thing and they have a kind of a flag in their mind. It's like, okay, this is good enough. They're not going to get
Yes, yes.
expert, right? And then they move on and they move on. And if they start early, they are accumulating so many tools in their mind that when a system of super intelligence, which is going to happen in a few years, I mean, it's already there, I think, right? As William Gibson said, the future is already here, right? It's just unevenly distributed. And what they're doing is this is what the startups are doing, right? So they have a amazing diversity of talent, and they can say, okay, here about here, I'm going to do AI first. Let's see, figure out what is. But they're becoming very good at borrowing on the education experience they're able to bring as an individual, as well as the others too are similar, right? So this idea about versatilist. So at Gartner, we use the term versatilist to describe these people outside as multi-potentialites, and you talked about range. That's going to be the new skill set.
Yeah. They're the new disruptors
Yeah.
uh, because they have a range, and AI and the new software, um, rapid software development tools would support that. I want to double click, Arun, on uh, your great points about separating conceptually the concept of developing a genius software and then scaling it. And the one person can do that genius job based on spark of innovation, inspiration, and then the whole Netflix effect around it. And it also, you thoughtfully referred back to a chapter in the book about open source, that there are so many open source applications out there downloaded by tens of thousands of people, but they have never been SaaSified, meaning the Netflix effect. And what an amazing potential out there for someone to take these applications, connect them to a new automated platform. We call it, together with AWS, SaaS 2.0, offer them to market as a SaaS 2.0, and in that sense commercialize it, so there is a economic viability for people who are putting their minds and heart in developing open source, so at the end of the day they can get paid while they're providing so much goodness to the world. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a brilliant point. At the time when I was covering open source, we had this calls. I had nominated, and it was picked up as a cool vendor. Another company called Tidelift, and Tidelift got bought out. But Tidelift was in the business of actually helping the maintainers, the folks who really make sure that open source software works, which almost every company and organization and enterprise depends on to be maintained. And what they had was a kind of a monetization model, right? So the business model was so innovative and so needed, because I do worry, we all should worry that one of the most important infrastructure, which is open source software, there is not a single enterprise right now which does not depend on open source software. Yet, it is one of the most invisible and maintained by underpaid maintainers. I
Yes.
I think those folks who are brilliant in doing this have a new destiny. And my hope, really, I'm positive that with the technologies that we're talking about today, they will probably be solo entrepreneurs. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next 5 years, as Sam Alcon talked about, right? Somewhere, someone will create a company which is $1 billion company by a single person. And I believe that that source probably will come from those open source maintainers.
Wow. Wow. I remember we had a conversation when the book was being finalized, and you mentioned that this group, and I mentioned them in the book for the sake of anyone who reads the book and need such service. But yeah, amazing. Another Gartner analyst, a brilliant one like yourself, Arun Chandrasekaran, mentioned to me that uh, SaaS could be the savior of open source industry because it could help commercialize and build an economic engine behind it. So thank you for double clicking on it. So today, Arun, um, generally people use DevOps to build SaaSOps as opposed to using DevOps to build their core application, let's say an AI infused, AI powered, or AI application, Gen AI application, and so on. Um, and then they use DevOps to also build distribution, metering, monitoring, multi tenancy, optimization, subscription management, upgrade, downgrade, all the things that surround the application for delivery and commercialization and management, and separating these two using DevOps to build the application and then plug in SaaSOps instead of using DevOps to build the SaaSOps, which reminds me in the old times, we used to use a compiler, of course,
Yeah.
programming language to build an application. But because databases were not as prevalent, we had to build data structures using a compiler. And then databases came, let's say Oracle, and boom, you just focus using a compiler, building the application and plugging the database. Do you think the invention of SaaS ops could have an impact in accelerating entrepreneurship? How would it impact VCs investing like 5 million or more just for a company to build their SaaS operations as opposed to the core application? Would it make any difference in investment capital and accelerated entrepreneurship, such as in Y Combinators of the world and tech stars of the world and so on?
Yeah, this is very, very logical, right? What developers and innovators love doing is innovation,
Yes.
right? The way I think about it is we spend so much time on the plumbing of a house that we forget the joy of actually building a house, right?
That's a
It's like,
great way of putting
right?
it. Yeah.
Because in the house that I live, yeah, the HVAC system and everything has to be absolutely table stakes. I don't want to worry about it, but it's not something that gives me joy. Like, oh my gosh, look at this furnace. No, I want to have the lived experience, right? I want to innovate my house. I want to innovate my room, like the bookshelf out there. All that stuff, how do I make it my own? That's my joy. And right now, and I always felt this way, from a software development standpoint, because I'm a developer, and it would take me ages to develop a user interface. And the business was coming like, Arun, hold on. Well, I don't know, this thing doesn't work. So we have solved for the inner loop, right? So in the DevOps loop, if you think about it, um, Feyzi, you have two loops, right? So one is the inner loop and then the DevOps loop. And then what we really want is to really go like this. That's where the multiplicative effect comes in. And you go faster, and that's what you get out. The challenge, of course, is that the other part is some of the engineers just love it. For example, maybe, not maybe, for sure, in court, because you really think that's what is your mission. But that's not my mission at all. So I have developed a small little application using one of the code assistant tools that we cover called Codium.
Mhm.
And they have something called Windsurf, and I really wanted to test it out. Like, it was amazing, right? So you go in there, and within half an hour, I had it from idea to actually deployed on, in this case, one of the cloud providers, not AWS, but Google Cloud Run, because I picked that because I'm not familiar with Google Cloud Run. I said, why not? And this whole thing, right, got me there. But you know what? What worried me? Okay, what's going to happen if someone finds that URL and suddenly, a bot hits it and my bill is like $3,000 tomorrow? You see? And then what if I actually wanted to really make it productionized and use it? Can I put a filter on top? Maybe it's a great idea. It's a very dumb idea right now, but I can see it going forward. And I'm putting my entrepreneur hat. I'm like, wait a minute, that part, I've not figured it out. I'm not going to do it. Right. But then today, right, in this very dialogue, I'm thinking, if I had something which will just do that for me, like, it's not even entirely magical. I got to do some work. But let's say it does most of the work, then I might actually think not only that, but unleash the other 100 ideas I have, which I can develop in half an hour and 2 hours. Right. So this is where I think
Yes,
a lot
yes,
of the
yes.
old SaaS, right? What we're talking about when we say that SaaS is dead is these SaaS applications enterprise, which have become so large, where an enterprise probably uses less than a small percentage. But if you think about the cost, you're paying a whole bunch of things ahead of of the value you're getting now, hoping that we will get that return if everybody uses on the investment. Now people are thinking like with these kind of tools, if I had some magical way of deploying it, these are new crop of SaaS applications that are coming up, which are really custom made, okay, very fit to purpose, which can work at scale. And
Yeah,
that's where the new software in SaaS
the
is going to happen.
new
So SaaS is dead, but long live SaaS.
long live SaaS. Yes, I love that. SaaS is dead, long live SaaS. To differentiate, we have come up with the term, Arun, you may have heard in our LinkedIn uh, ads, SaaS 2.0, and specifically in partnership with AWS, which is the SaaS automation platform, SaaS 2.0. Along those lines, any thoughts, Arun, on the evolution of the traditional role of software developers in the era of AI? If you were a software developer, how would you rethink, reposition, and evolve your position given a faster, better, cheaper, more accelerated cycles in software development?
Yeah. So let's take outside the enterprise and we can always extrapolate there. When people build software today, right? So you have two kind of founders. One is a domain expertise who really knows about what the problem is because that's what people are going to pay for.
Right.
And then you find a technical founder.
Mhm.
The threat for software engineers and software developers is going to be that for those folks, those multipotentialites and other folks who are coming from the problem domain, now have a new technical founder, which is called AI. So AI is a technical founder. I mean, there's so many folks. I mean, I hang out in the forums of all these companies, and I begin to see that many times are just there's a new term called vibe coding, right? So basically, there is this AI which can listen to you, look at the screen, and it's also an editor and all that stuff, and you're just talking to it, right? And it's developing applications, and you say, "Oh, that button." I mean, you don't have to know what just make it whatever that style, and so they're beginning to do this, right? And we might actually laugh about it, right? Because the joke is that sometimes when you need 100 lines, it will probably create 1,000 lines. If you want 2, 3 files, it might have 100 files. But we know these things can be corrected. We have seen that progress. So if you think about it, right? So this is where the democratization is happening, not only of SaaS, but democratization of who will be developing these software. On GitHub, I forget the exact number, but I remember at least 1 year before, it's like 100 million people having repositories there, right? Someone has tweeted something and decided that they will have a repository, which means like, are they earning their livelihood by being a software developer or software engineer? No. They're only about 27 to 30 million globally is the estimate. No one has an exact number, but that's what it is. But if you think about it, there's 100 million. So is it that now that we'll always have software engineers? I mean, we have My colleague has talked about Jevon's paradox, right? So where the number of software engineers, despite all this, are going to grow. Okay, but at the same time, you're also beginning to see others who are going to develop software, right? Those they will need at some point. Those companies will need to have that software be distributed. Are they going to distribute as a downloadable thing on a? No, they're going to distribute in such a way that it's a browser-based thing. We know it's the most efficient way to distribute software, right? So there is this evolution that's going on where on the outer loop, it has to really work to have this value of business and innovation to flow at a scaled level.
Yes, yes, indeed. I was happened to be in New York a few days ago and had the pleasure of meeting with Angie Grimm, former VP of M&A at IBM, now the managing director of TechStars. Some people in the audience may know TechStars as the largest incubator accelerator of startups, like 4,000 startups being incubated. And we were talking about AI and SaaS ops to be the accelerator of the accelerators, because they're trying to raise money, right? Uh, Build their minimum viable product that very quickly can be built by using AI accelerated tools. And then the distribution, the Netflix effect, plug it into core and SaaS ops. So you have a viable product that is deliverable and can scale. And then instead of spending so much time on business plans, etc.,
Yeah.
to raise money, we just accelerated that phase. You skip that phase. The product is done. It's distributed. You can distribute it, deliverable, and focus on go to market. Maybe in partnership with super scalers like AWS and so on. Quickly shorten, collapse that time from ideation to a minimal viable product to have a fully distributable SaaS, and then focus on go to market. So we like that accelerating the accelerators. Any thoughts on that? And then impacting the investment needed that could have major economic uh, acceleration effect as well.
Yeah. So let me come at it from a different angle from my point
Okay.
of view, right? So today we have software development lifecycle, meaning, we have a piece of software. It could be some code, it could be some program we are modifying, across files. We're still at a very low level if you think about it. We're still not thinking about like a product or application. So software development lifecycle, it is a discussion going in our research forum at Gartner, right? So we're analysts who work like a beehive, right? And we talk to each other, we debate with each other, we shout at each other to just make sure the truth comes out. And one of the emerging ideas that are coming in, and one of my esteemed colleagues, Manjunath, uh, proposed something which is very interesting. Maybe we are going towards application builders today, right? So think about application inside. If you are at a consumer side, you're thinking of product. So maybe we are going towards a not a software development life cycle now. We're talking about a product life cycle, right?
Product.
Products development. So you're always thinking products. So minimum viable product you talked about. Another piece of very interesting insight. When I joined Best Buy in 2010, it was a part of a small elite team because, this VP realized that Best Buy's competitors are not the other brick and mortar, it's basically Amazon. And so she brought in very few digital folks. You know, we did produce some of the platforms that are still powering the modern Best Buy. But what was interesting is that my ego really hit rock bottom. And here's the reason why. I mean, I was a very good developer, of course, right? Otherwise, I'm not on there. But what I didn't realize that no matter how good your engineering is, if the customers don't adopt the feature you think is the best, it doesn't matter, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that transformed me. And we looked at studies where we would, develop a few features and like, oh, this should be great. And we did these user stories and they would just completely not use it. They would miss it. And we were screaming behind the glass house saying, oh my God, please click there. Doesn't matter. Because when you have millions of people, you can't go and sit tap on the shoulders, right? That's when I realized that the only thing that really matters ultimately is adoption. And so this product development, the one you were describing, the MVP, think about this, right? Today, we're like, oh my gosh, we develop, we'll release, and then test it. No, just develop it, put it out there. If it sucks, take it back because you're doing product development, right? So you're pivoting into very, very fast cycles. That's what's going on, right? These some of the articles in TechCrunch, and there's a New York Times article about this new type of things. They're refusing VC money. Why? Because they're already profitable. I've talked to some of our clients who are those AI native companies, and they said, like, Arun, we don't even want to take it, but sometimes we have to because of the networks. But we are already profitable. We're going to bank it for future, right? And the way they're measuring themselves, Feyzi, this blows my mind, right? They're not. So previously, the VC companies would say, oh, we raised this much, we're so much $1 billion. I think that's gone. What is happening now is, what is your ratio of revenue generation? How much
Yes.
does a single employee generate revenue? It's like, from what I can tell now, there's a leaderboard going on, but $3 to $4 million, and that with scaling, it would work. I mean, imagine now if it were to be more and more distributed,
Right.
that would be awesome, so.
Yeah. The last chapter of the book, if you remember, it's called Liberation. And it goes with the people at the bottom of they're all liberated and they're just saying, yay, it's the empowerment, using technology to empower business, to empower entrepreneurs. I believe we are entering a new era in terms of empowerment. And not only the software engineers, business people, but also venture capital needs to rethink how they can add value in this new disrupted. I mean, we all get disrupted and we want to be ahead of the curve. So that meeting with Angie in New York was eye-opening, that we can empower so many entrepreneurs to get there faster, better, and also deliver value to the intended customer. When we talk with Claire Greben, the head of global SMB at AWS, we're talking about how can we serve these hundreds of millions of SMBs out there to have a better business, more profitable business, better livelihoods. And it's truly inspiring. Arun, I can go on and on, enjoy this conversation with you. Any final thoughts that you can share with us?
There's something to remember, right? So is that there is no magic. There's only advanced technology.
Yes.
But when we talk about, like, oh my gosh, these companies, how is it even possible? Because they're just using advanced technology. I think that's the key takeaway. The second one, I think, is if you have a great idea, don't wait for a team. AI is your team. You got to give it a try. You got to give it a try, because these things are not describable unless you play around with it. It's only then you realize that this is totally something different. We have invented an intelligence, it's still, that's why we call it artificial intelligence, which is becoming powerful. There's a lot of fear about super intelligence, but Feyzi, I'm waiting for super intelligence, because that will make you Superman,
Right.
probably, right? And I think we need to really think about that. People who don't, right, or will be on the sidelines, have not tried it, they're not building up the muscles. Of course, these things are limited, but if you don't do it, you wouldn't have the muscle that which you will require when it really shows up and you're facing competition.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you, Arun, for the inspiring conversation to be continued. But in the interim, we will get this message out to people who are sometimes afraid, sometimes anxious, sometimes fearful of the future. And you gave us hope that the future is a better, brighter future, as long as we are keeping an open mind and be open to new technology, advanced technology, and deploy it, use it, and enjoy and benefit from the ripple effects. Thank you, Arun. Until next time.
Thank you, Feyzi. Thank you, Feyzi. It was a privilege.
This has been Democratizing SaaS. A multi-trillion-dollar software renaissance has begun. A new generation of innovators is being empowered. The revolution will be democratized. What world-shifting ideas will you build? Find out more at coreandtech.com. Democratizing SaaS is a production of Forbes Books.